Nice to see you. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Tony. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. I just saw you in where was it? It was in Milwaukee. Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Have you been there before? Have you been to Milwaukee?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's where I live.
That's where you live. Okay. Listen,
Yeah.
I didn't get to see the Happy Days area, but that just means I'm gonna have to go back. But it was beautiful out there and great to
hmm
be able to meet you as well. So
I love it.
thank you
Yeah.
for joining Tech Talk, Tony, on Saturday. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So today we're here to talk about harnessing our neurodiversity, which I really love. It's a topic that sometimes goes undiscussed or not reviewed or not reviewed enough, if you will. And so for you, I recall listening to you in Milwaukee about this topic, and I'm so interested in it. I know the audience, the Tech Talk Tony audience really has a lot of different type of knowledge that they like to learn from, and the brain is so intelligent. We have to continue to learn about it. So um, if it's okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to try to stump you a little bit, but
hmm
if you let me know if you're ready.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Okay, well, the first question is, isn't neurodiversity something people forget about?
Yeah, so actually, Tony, I was gonna turn this on you and ask what your definition of neurodiversity is.
Well, I think different minds do different things, how we grow up. And so in my mind, I feel like neurodiversity is about seeing things from different perspectives. But um, let me know if I hit
hmm
any of the mark on that one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the great thing is that neurodiversity is really broad, so people have different definitions. The one that I use is that for most of the population, we understand people have strengths and then things that they struggle with. The unique part of a neurodiverse person is that the difference between those are a lot more pronounced.
Okay.
And so I can explain that by a person that might sit out of groups working on a problem at work, getting a lot of really interesting solutions and information, but then that person is not comfortable coming to the group and sharing the solution they figured out.
Mm, okay.
And that's just one example of neurodiversity, right? But you kind of notice it because that person, what we call neurodiverse, is outside of this neurotypical group, which would
Mm,
be all the other people sitting together, right?
right. Right.
Yeah. And so I talk about this because that is one example of neurodiversity. And frankly, a lot in school or in other social situations, a person that is left out or maybe choosing to sit by themselves gets labeled as different
That's
and
right.
weird. And then you can go into a whole slew of terms that are hurtful, right?
That's
Like
right. That's right.
that's kind of what bullying is, it's
Yeah, that's
picking
right.
out someone's differences and then making them feel like they don't belong
That's right.
in the general group. So the reason I think it's important to talk about neurodiversity and how it gets forgotten is because when you go into a work setting, imagine someone that was getting bullied their whole life for being different, and then they show up at work and they have the same challenge.
Right.
They said, well, I just got made fun of for 18 years growing up, and now I'm supposed to collaborate with people, but I didn't get taught that.
Hmm. That's right.
And neurodiversity for me is so interesting because it includes a lot of different conditions. That could be ADHD, autism, depression, dyslexia. And now we're seeing that people can also acquire neurodiversity from the environments that they're in.
Right.
So I don't know if you've ever walked into a room where you feel like everyone is distracted and trying to do multiple things at once. Maybe maybe they're getting frustrated with each other, but you can tell the energy is just really anxious.
Right. Right.
And so the interesting thing about humans is that when we start to assimilate with that anxious energy, then we actually have processes in our brain with where dopamine flows into different lobes that affects our ability to remember things
Mm.
or to speak clearly. And so I love to talk about neurodiversity. Did you ever consider it as an umbrella term for these conditions that I mentioned? Had you
I
heard of
have not. And in business, I, as a manager for now 26 years, manager, senior manager, director, senior director, been through the ranks. I specifically work on inclusion for that very reason. Whatever you were in the past, I want to help to improve that. And one of the ways that I do that is by being
Mm-hmm.
inclusive. So when we have team meetings, I don't just, have people talk that always want to talk. I call out and ask how people are doing. I call out and try to
Mm-hmm.
make sure people are being heard. And I give vehicles for being heard, not just by voice, but also through text or through, our instant messaging with Teams or in email, because some people still don't want to use their voice, but they have a lot to say. So
Mm-hmm.
I use inclusivity as a major tool in business so that everyone can participate, and that's where you're going to get the best ideas, when everybody participates. So I didn't call it in this type of name, but I absolutely have dealt with it most of my life.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And your unique experience is important because as a manager, having lived through something, my whole approach with empathic engineering, the business that I have, is we have the ability to empathize with people, and it takes some lived experience.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.